romantic, isn't it? A special year that we're looking forward to has a very special number, 2024, after the alleged birth of our Saviour, Jesus Christ, whose second coming we are anticipating. Now you'll see, this whole stream this morning is full of metaphor. The screenshot for this video is through a misty window. Beyond the misty view that you can see captured in the photograph is a beautiful sea view. And where possible, I'll post up the beautiful beach video that I just shot just now as well, so you can see that. Do excuse me. I have been yomping up a hill. I normally park at the top and let Jimmy go for a run, but I decided to walk down to the beach and film the most stunning video. And I'm rich with not excitement exactly, but what's the word? Anticipation for this next new year and what I want to share with you about it, and invite whoever's up for it to look at this distinct conceptual frame of reference, this beginning of a new number, 2024, the beginning of a new set of 12 months, as we have the past 12 months to reflect on, and another 12 months coming up in the future. Peggy, have you eaten all of that? Oh, that's not good. Peggy, the dog, the other dog here, has just been eating through an old cake she just found on the floor, including rice paper, I think. So I'll have to keep an eye on her, see what happens with that. Okay, so the last 24 months, sorry, the last 2024 is coming up. The last 12 months has been, I don't know about for you, but for me, it's been, I reached in the Christmas of 23 and this little bit before the New Year's Eve. It seems like peak meaninglessness in the world. New Year's Eve, what's that about? Apart from a chance to party. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not being a party pooper, but in terms of deep, profound meaning, all I can see at the moment is a shitload of fireworks, which have been procured at great expense, will be let off. And I don't know about you, but after the first 30 seconds of fireworks, I'm thinking, okay, I've seen it now. And then it goes on for another 10 or 15 minutes, doesn't it? And you know, okay, well, now we've got to stick around for the grand finale. And then after that, okay, well, see you next year. Hangover, just a hangover to have now, and then we're into the new year. There's a lot of beer getting ready to be sold in San Martino. There's a big box of fireworks somewhere ready to be ignited, and people will see in the new year. And it'll be lovely, I'm sure. People will be hugging and kissing each other and wishing each other the best, which is a lovely thing, don't get me wrong. And Christmas was similar, wasn't it? Christmas was a time when we could get together and calm down a little bit for some of us not. Some of us were perhaps especially busy or stressed because of the time of year. Oh, it's okay. Peggy's all right. She didn't eat the rice paper. And for me, looking at Christmas, again, another festival moment related to the birth of a historical character. Was there an intrinsic value? It was lovely to slow down and to be with family. And it was lovely to eat nice food and to be calm and be together with loved ones. And it was also not very nice to be knowing that I wasn't with some loved ones who I would have liked to have seen as well. All of that going on. But really, quite the husk of a ritual. And I'm imagining that it's really thinned out now. The profundity and the meaning of Christmas is so thin that it's almost barely worth the bother, apart from the juggernaut, the historical juggernaut that brings us to that point every year. So what can we do in 2024? My suggestion is that we, like it says on the tin here, we come back to life and we wean ourselves from the meaninglessness and the meaninglessness of certain rituals, which as a collective, hold on, I gotta let Jim into the car. And we'll have to contend with a wet, and you're lucky you don't have to smell the wet dogs in this car. I'm here, sat with them, trying to put together a few words of encouragement for coming back to life in this upcoming 12-month period. And I would say it has its uses just as a measurable period. I don't give it any other significance other than that. Apart from the significance that it is the next iteration of years, human measured years of existence on the planet. And we're just ending one, which is 23, which does, to me, feature an all-time level of meaninglessness and insanity for the human race. That seems to be where we're at. People are expecting something awful, something amazing, but certainly something different. You said, come to say hello, Peggy. You're going to say hello. I think you better get down on the floor because I can feel that you're covered in sand. Oh my goodness, go down there. I am now covered in sand as well. These really aren't the most, these really aren't the easiest circumstances in which to deliver a message of this kind, but it's life as well, isn't it? This is, again, a great metaphor because my intention, my aim is to talk meaningfully to you. And meanwhile, life goes on, doesn't it? Living goes on, the world goes on with its input, energy, interference, if you like. Again, and that becomes a judgment, doesn't it? What's happening in here is what's happening in here. And what has happened in 23 is what happened, and what happened in 24 will be what happens to us. And the only thing that we can really adjust in all seriousness or in any profound and meaningful way is our perception of it. And that's what, for me, this next year is going to be about, is a deepening of my relationship, my perception of where I am in relationship to this phenomenon of 2024. And I hope you'll join me on that journey and practice your own deepening of relationship to the magical year number 2024 and see who you can be, where you can be, how you can be in relationship to what's going on culturally, societally, and in this particular slice of civilization and history in which we find ourselves. We have some commonalities, don't we? If you're watching this, you know, we're united by the technology, we're united by the culture. We're, if not united, then we exist within a particular phenomenon of culture and technology and history, which we can reflect on. And some people's vibes, energy, consciousness will help them to connect within all of that. And others won't have much of a connection. But they seem to be concentric circles, don't they? Either of narrowing down into connection or broadening out into disconnection. And for those who want to be connected in a certain part of the journey, in a certain part of human history, I believe that's what I'm offering here, a context for that. And my particular invitation to you is to come back to life, real life, and to relate less and less to this, the worldliness that's not real life, that we're seeing for what it is. More and more people seem to be seeing it for the ridiculousness and insanity that it is, and are looking for alternatives. Now, my particular alternative is to see where did that all come from? In what does that reproduce? In what, against which context, in which background, in which soil was all of this insanity created? So I see it as a continuum. I don't see it as an either or necessarily. Although the dark age is so profound now, it does seem like people are awake or they're not awake, or it's light or it's dark, when in fact it's a constant process. And I think mindfully, purposefully, we can guide ourselves back to shore, back to the lighthouse of profound consciousness and life and light and connection that we all know, as Charles Eisenstein says, we all know in our hearts is possible. And unlike Charles, I propose this is an individual journey along which we can help each other, but we can only do it for ourselves, and we can only know for ourselves what the results are like. We can look at each other and think, oh, that's a very fulfilled and happy person. And we never really know. Only that person knows that. And it's always changing as well, isn't it? And that's why I think this is coming back to life is a practice, not necessarily a journey that could be completed. It is a journey in a sense, but it's not a journey which is ever completed or is very measurable, like a journey in the real, not the real world, in the manufactured, in the world of manifestations, if you like, in the world of catching trains to places. You know, we are not catching. Come Back to Life is not a process of catching a train from A to B, and once you're in B, you can stay there. We know that life isn't like that. And at the same time, we know that metaphorically, there is a sense that it is a journey, and we can be pointed in some directions and other directions, some of which are more or less helpful and healthy and joyous. And that really is the bottom line. You know, for 2024, I want to deepen further my connection to joy and my sense of joyousness, and be in joy more often, whichever way you look at this. And I really don't want to get involved in a semantic discussion about that, because I think you either get what I'm talking about or you don't. And if you want to talk about the semantics of this isn't really the place. You can do that on Facebook, can't we? But this Come Back to Life endeavor is specific in us having a general understanding of what joy is, because it is what we really are. And we've come a long way from our extended or deepened or prolonged experience of that in the dark age in which we live, because we've all had to make a compromise with the world in which we've been born. Now, interestingly, in the times of talking of chaos and awakening and collapse, the opportunity is there for us, interestingly, ironically perhaps, to connect more with joy, because the magnet of the created world, the world that looks so great, but so many found so difficult, what I call the dark age that we've been living through for decades, centuries, perhaps millennia. I really don't know. I'm only talking about it mythologically and a sense of it. That which we were quite attached to, or were asked to be attached to, as though there were no other alternative. But for many of us, we knew that something wasn't quite right. Well, we had to be careful what we wished for, didn't we? Because it's all coming apart now, it would seem. And as I heard someone say the other day, we all know what's going to happen. We just don't know when it's going to happen. It's like we all know we're going to die, but we just don't know when. And that said, there's still something we can do about the quality of our journey again, talking of the metaphorical journey. There's something we can do about the quality of our journey whilst we're on a collective bus from A to B, while we're all on this journey together in the culture that would appear to be coming apart and collapsing. We have a choice about the quality of that. And also, I mean, the startling realization that we are wholly responsible for that. And again, if you don't want to feel wholly responsible for that, or to have a growing sense of responsibility for the quality of your life in these times, this again probably isn't the place for you to be. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just you're probably not going to get much out of the conversations I'm hoping to have here. What's the word they use in corporate circles? Not ongoingly, but going forward. You know, there is a sense of us going forward, isn't there? We're going forward into a new year. We're moving into this illusory future, a sense of the future. There is a direction of travel, and we are embarked on it together. And only individually, I think, can we take responsibility for the quality of that. And we can also help each other. And that's my endeavor here, is to help you and for you to help me get a sense of increased joy and coming back to lifeness, increased vitality, increased connection, and getting the world. We can't leave the world. The hippies of the 60s wanted to leave the world, didn't they? And they didn't manage to do that. All sorts of weird things happened. Many went back to the world. Many created better terms with the world. And the world with which they created better terms seems to be coming apart now. So their long view was good. It didn't happen quickly enough for many of them. And I understand that as an impatient and impetuous person. But it might be that another, 40, 60 years later, you have to keep remembering it's 2024 and not 2004 anymore. Some 60 years later, 50, 60 years later, whoa, maybe all that they hope for is beginning to happen and be possible now. And for those who have eyes to see it, ears to hear it, and a heart that yearns for it, come on, let's do it. You know, we can't on the one hand wish for the world that we despise so much, and we can see the insanity thereof. We can't wish for that to be making way for something else, and then when it happens saying, oh no, I quite like the safety and security of the dysfunctional world. Well, it looks like enough of us have wished for it to be unburdened of it, that it's starting to happen now, and that won't come without some challenge, will it? And the level of that challenge is up to us. Again, it comes back to our own quality of life and our own richness or quality of perception or management of it, whichever words you want to use. But I hope I've conveyed a sense of what is possible, or what I'm hoping will be possible in this community and on this journey. Coming back to life in 2024 is the best way I can put it. And the world, which is the imposition, the man-made imposition with all the rationality and thoughts and stuff, egotistical human stuff, has reached but it's probably coming off its peak now, but it's certainly obscured what was more universal, what was more peaceful, joyous, loving, and light-filled. You know, the personal agenda. Interestingly, it's a very personal agenda, isn't it? The worldly agenda. But when everyone's doing it, it creates the illusion that is the whole of the world doing it, strangely enough. But I don't want to disappear down another philosophical rabbit hole. I just want to maintain my invitation to you and ask of you that we go on this journey together to manage our perception, to ask, where are we right now? Are we in a place of fear? Are we in a place of reaction, triggering? Or are we in a place of freedom? And look, Jimmy's come to say hello. And what can we do to grow that? Because that's the process here, is de facto longer periods. You can't do it by timing yourself, but I think you can keep practicing that which reveals joy and love and light to you. And before you know it, it's like, whoa, I've been doing that for several minutes, several hours now, several days, then several weeks and months. And maybe in time to come, that will just be a norm, a collective norm for people. But I think it will start with the baby steps of prolonged peace, joy, and love among those who have had enough of the current consciousness. And at this point, for those of you who are hypersonically sensitive, I apologize for my smaller dog in the front of the car quite vigorously licking its anus at the moment. You see, the world is full of poetic and light relief. Peggy, could you just stop for a moment, because we're reaching the climax of the podcast here and you're really not helping. Okay, so here's to Peggy. Peg. Good girl. Just stop for a minute, okay? You see, the thing is, Peggy, you don't need to come into the moment. You're always in the moment, aren't you? Whether you're licking your ass or looking at me in that loving way that you're doing now, and the sun's coming out. You see that? The sun's come out now. And that's, again, it's so rich in metaphor and poetry, isn't it, all of this? Everything is what it is. And there's a variable, which is the lens through which we experience and perceive it. And maybe that will be the journey for us, is to be working on that perception and on that lens. That's our consciousness gym, is that we're working out to keep, no, not to keep, because that's an attachment, but to just to, I'm going to use the word keep, but just keep looking, keep seeing, take the effort out, keep pulling back to the bigger awareness all the time. That thing. And that's all I've got for you, is a sense of it, a mythology about it, metaphor about it, and magic. I can't be more specific, because those are the tools of the world that is the pickle we're already in. And I don't think we're going to be able to use the same tools that got us into this trouble to get us out of this trouble. We need something else, don't we? We need to come back to myth and magic. And I hope I've made myself a little bit clearer than when this video started. And if I haven't, I am so sorry. Okay. Here's to the year called 2024. If you do English maths, if you're Portuguese, it's still 2024, but it's 2024, you see. It's just so subjective and so conceptual and so rational. It's quite meaningless, but we can use it. We can use it as a frame of reference so that we can at least talk to each other about this phenomenon. Go well, my friend. Bye for now.